Tucker, we just got a 15-minute trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, all of a sudden, we got some shit to talk about, or do we? It's a little bit tricky, but before we talk about our thoughts on this new, almost direct, let's tell you that you can talk to us about Pokemon. Link in the description to our Discord, like the video, ring the bell, subscribe to the channel. Tucker, I'm rusty on the intros,
Yeah,
but
it's
we are
okay.
not
We'll
actually
get
that
through it.
rusty on Pokemon talk because we're getting these trailers a little bit more frequently.
Yeah.
So, this is yet another one, but unlike the past couple, this was a meaty boy.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
It was a long trailer, but I don't know if I would call it meaty because when they started this video off and they're like, "Hey,
right.
you're someone who's been paying attention to Pokemon. We want to
Right.
tell you something that you didn't know." For Rigorath?
You know what, Tucker?
Sandwiches?
That's actually a good point.
Customization, but like mostly it was, and I think this was an important trailer to have. I think it was a good trailer, sort of compiling the information that we've sort of piecemealed over the last few months.
Yeah.
Of hey, there are these different paths. You can just trade in the field. What do the inside of these Starfall Street areas look like? What like there were some things to show here, but nothing of it was new information necessarily, and nothing of it was surprising aside from a few things. So I didn't come out of this more jazzed than I was before. More just like, okay, I'm glad they went in depth, a little more in depth than they have been giving themselves a chance to in the past.
Yeah, well, I think when I said meaty, I meant meaty minutes
Ah,
because
yes.
because I think you're right, but I have a couple takeaways from this trailer
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
I ought to discuss with you because I think you're right on the whole, and I think it's peculiar that some information still is kind of missing, right, from an
Hmm.
understanding of Scarlet and Violet. But my biggest takeaway, Tucker, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again because it becomes more and more glaring, at least to me with every trailer, is that the
Yeah.
game looks awful,
Hmm.
technically.
Yeah.
And
Well, I don't agree.
okay,
But I agree on limited elements in the environment.
sure.
But in terms of art direction, in terms of the majority of the environments, I think it looks exactly what I expected. And frankly, I think it looks better than the last two games, which are Legends Arceus and BDSP, which is not a high bar to set. But
Sure.
I'm easily taking ambition as a trade off for technical fidelity in this instance.
See, I'm just not willing to because I feel like Pokemon Company can and should give us both.
Hmm.
Because I agree with you. I think the art direction is quite nice. I was remarking to you as we're watching the trailer that I think a lot of the towns look quite pretty.
Yeah.
But where I come down
Did
on
you
it
say
is,
that? I didn't hear that. Maybe I just shut down my brain when you were talking. Totally
yeah,
possible.
I, I,
Maybe I
I,
was just too enamored by the terastallizing.
sure, we'll talk about terrestrializing, but no, I think they're doing a nice job sort of conceptualizing the Paldea region.
Yeah.
But what I think about is for as technically shoddy as Legends Arceus was, it was kind of bathed in this patina of this classical Japanese like soft cell
Sure.
shading and this, the interesting like classical Hisui village and all that. I thought that was quite nice. But when you're throwing me in just another Pokemon place, and it is a
Yeah.
well-designed one, and I'm seeing like sharp 90-degree angles on mountainous geography, and
Hmm.
your windmill that is like the first thing you like the marquee shot of a town as you walk in and the camera sort of pushes
Yeah.
behind you and pulls out is a windmill literally moving like this, or the sunflora that you're hoarding are running
Yeah. Yeah.
like this. I think that it's quite shocking because
Hmm.
I mean the Pokemon Company is a company of boundless resources.
Yeah.
And we continue to see more examples of open world games looking better than this. And I just I think to myself back to when we were talking about Sword and Shield, and we are saying, well, these games are rough technically, but look at the jump between the first set of games on a platform
Hmm.
and the second from Game
Yeah.
Freak,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
It's a
can
great point. Of
and
course,
you
when you compare Gen
yeah.
4 to Gen 5 or Gen 6 to Gen 7, there's definitely jumps there.
And there is, I would not deny that there's a jump here, not only in terms of just the infrastructure of the game, in
Yeah.
terms of its open world status and everything, but I really do think that part of the ability to be immersed in open world and a Pokemon adventure is to feel immersed in your surroundings.
Yeah.
And for me, it's hard to be immersed in a world that looks this shoddy. Again,
Hmm.
technically,
Yeah.
they're making a lot of really smart art design and art direction choices, but the technical fidelity for me is just, I think unacceptable is too strong of a word,
Yeah.
but I think that it should be considered unacceptable from a company of Game
Sure.
Freak and Pokemon Company size. So
Yeah.
I just
And
feel
there's
like I
not too
gotta
much
shut it up.
to talk about that. I do. It's entertaining to say the very least. When we're watching a trailer, I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen render distance this low in my entire life.
Right.
Like grass popping up a few feet in front of your character. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That's surprising. That's not a good sign. But I do think that those elements, while they are stand out, they aren't the majority of the game. And when you're looking at those environments and you see a jagged edge on a piece of mountainous geography, as you said, I want to copy your phrasing there.
Sure.
Uh, that's not the majority of the geography. It's
Sure.
like, oh, why is this one part a 90-degree angle, but the rest of it looks good, and so it's just those small moments that stick out. But when I'm looking at this game, I don't think, oh, this looks bad, because I'm not focused on that. As a Pokemon
Yeah.
player, this was not the huge jump from Gen 4 to Gen 5 or Gen 6 to Gen 7. This is a huge jump in terms of this being clearly the biggest change up to the mainline Pokemon formula
Right.
ever. Uh, Discounting Legends Arceus, because who the fuck knows? In terms of generation numbered games, this game is just taking a lot of what we know from the past and throwing it out the window. And I think that is what I focus on in this game. But also, that is kind of what we know the least about when it
That's
comes to this
yeah.
game.
That's my next major takeaway, Tucker,
Yeah.
is that they continue to be very cagey about how the game actually operates. Because they say, here's the journey of the player through, through the school system, the treasure hunt quest line, or
Yeah.
I forget the name of it, but the one where you're just doing the gym challenge, right?
Hmm.
And we've kind of seen on a moment to moment level, yeah, you're setting waypoints on the map. You're finding like Pokemon events on the map in essence of doing this sort of battle against these Ubisoft strongholds
Yeah.
or the terrestrializing Jigglypuff or whatever.
Hmm.
And I like that they're filling out the world with side activities.
Yeah.
But I feel
Well, they
like
are core activities. This is the main story of the game. It's just split into three different paths. But though what that rings to of me, well, what that rings to me is that you can take these variety of activities in any order, and you'll just sort of piecemeal them
yeah,
together as you're heading this way. Oh, you see the big cloth, you see the area of grunts, and you visit the gym that's in the local area. And as you explore the entire region, you'll complete them all at about the same pace.
no, I get that, but what I mean is like in the context of an open world, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are side activities in
Sure.
terms
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
the map is populated with enemy bases. You go and you defeat the base when you want to, and you get rewards or whatever, and then you get to plug those rewards in that TM machine, which I like. There's
Yeah.
a lot of small things in this trailer I like a lot. But what I mean to say is, you think about a route in a Pokemon game.
Mm-hmm.
A route in a Pokemon game is a very deliberate experience because it's tile based and trainers are
Yeah.
set up with line of sight and everything,
Yes.
and there's little puzzles. So getting from one story beat to the next story beat is like a curated experience.
Sure.
What I'm interested about is that in a game that's open, and this sounds simple, but like to where if there's a trainer in your path, you walk around them. Or
Yeah.
if you don't want to encounter an environmental puzzle, you can probably like circumvent it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the actual moment to moment thrust getting you from story beat to story beat? Is
Yeah.
it really just, hey, the gym is over there, go walk to the gym and fight the gym?
Yeah.
Now that's okay, but then how does that interface with these other storylines? Sort of, are you
Yeah.
jumping between storylines? Do you pick a storyline? And now I'm sure you probably do jump between them, but it's the principle of the fact that it's October 6th,
Yeah.
right? So I just would like to know more about what I'm actually doing and my on the moment to moment journey from when I get my starter Pokemon to when
Yeah.
I probably defeat another Elite Four. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, well, most certainly, yes, and the fact that gyms are returning and things like that. But I agree with you, but I think I'm kind of I'm astral projecting myself out
Sure.
of my own stupid little Tucker Hazel, Aiden Buhner backlog banter body and into the cultural consciousness of Pokemon and what this game's like placement in history will be. And I know that's fucking ridiculous, but
It
but
is,
hear
but
me
keep
out.
going.
But is what we are talking about here and what the worry is, it's not like this isn't weighing down the game immensely. We're like, huh? We're scratching our little monkey heads. This will, A, obviously not matter in 1 month because we will know what will happen. Well, actually, probably a little bit before that when we start getting hands-on previews and when we start getting
Right.
reviews like a week or so before. We will understand it and it will be like, okay, this is what it is. We will have had the games in our hands and it won't be a problem. And so from that degree, for the majority of history, what we're worrying about now won't be a problem. It'll just be like a weird flub or sort of the marketing. But also,
Right.
I do think for the majority of people, it's not an issue because you and I are honed in on, oh, how we don't exactly know how the online play is working. Oh, do you switch between these storylines? But I think for the majority of people who are watching these trailers, who are going to be playing this game, even if they're seeing these trailers before launch, and that's kind of rare for most people who play video games, they're like, yeah, oh, cool, open world. I can go do the Pokemon. I can do the gym standing outdoor, and that's all that matters, frankly. Like I don't think that the confusion that you and I are having around this marketing is a problem for the Pokemon Company or for this game's success or its appeal to the majority of its players.
No, I mean I think you're right, but it just comes back to what I've said in like every one of these discussions is I do not believe that the Pokemon Company can make a good open world game.
Sure. Oh, sure.
I
Yeah.
do not believe that.
Well, they did. It was called Legends Arceus.
It's just that's not even an open world game. It's Monster Hunter like. But, but no, you're totally right that at a certain point it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, if you're going to wheel out another one of these trailers over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
I want to get closer to an understanding of how the game works.
Yeah.
And that's when I just feel like there's a distinct possibility that this game comes out and it is not very focused in its design
Sure.
at all.
Certainly possible. Yeah.
And I really just I would like an understanding of that before I go in.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said before, I want to be surprised about certain things. Like I
Yeah.
want to be surprised about the Pokemon I'm going to meet, which is I'm a little bit concerned about how few Pokemon they've revealed.
Mm-hmm.
Like do you not think it's weird that they'll probably show off maybe 20 Pokemon before the game is out, and
Mm-hmm.
then does that mean that there's another 80 Pokemon that they're not going to show?
We'll see. We'll see.
I still subscribe to my personal theory that this is going to be a very small new edition Pokemon.
It's certainly possible. Yeah.
But it just comes back to like I want to know what you mean when you say certain things to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the multiplayer again is a great example. They keep saying run around with your friends, but
Yeah.
all they want to tell us about multiplayer today is you can do terrestrialized raid battles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why, if you're gonna give me a 15-minute trailer, why can't you sit me down and say, look, you can play with your friends in the open world and just go out and
Mm-hmm.
do X and Y and Z activities. You can't do A or B, but you can do X, Y, and Z. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But they're not doing that. And you're right that it's not going to matter at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think that Pokemon Company anymore has my blanket trust in terms of
Sure.
what the
No.
games are going to look like and how they can play.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I'm in a similar
Yeah.
boat as for this generation of Pokemon games, that since the Switch began, I've started noticing that certain games, while they are taking interesting directions, they're not landing in the way that I personally enjoy them, and I've got problems with each ones, and only one of them out of this generation of games I think is actually great. But
Let's go.
I do think that this game has me more intrigued than almost any of the other
Sure.
previous Pokemon games because we don't know. And for the first time in Pokemon history, we don't know what the structure is, and we don't know how this is going to work. And there is an appeal to that, and I think that's what this game is being sold on. And now, I'm not saying that they shouldn't tell us how the multiplayer works, because that's not a mystery that I want to solve. It's just something I want to know. Whatever.
Right.
But the appeal of them shifting things so drastically is why this game is, at face value, exciting to me. And while I'm noticing these problems with the visuals, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm confused a little bit on the structure. We've been asking for this game every generation for a long time, for them to finally break out of this mold, to try something new, and they've been dabbling in it with the wild area and with the Monster Hunter style formula of Legends Arceus and a local multiplayer or whatever, Pokemon in the overworld. We've been getting steps towards this, but this is the step. We are here. This is an open world Pokemon game. This is approach it in any order, getting rid of the route structure, presumably just playing with your friends in this open world. Regardless of how it turns out, they have taken that step, and I think that is what's keeping my hope alive. Is I've been a Pokemon player for so long, and we've been asking them to take this step, and we've always been like, you've been hesitant. You're only kind of doing it, but now they're finally taking the step, and I think that at face value is very exciting.
Yeah, at face value, it certainly is. I agree with you that the intrigue is very high here, but I want to talk about some of the small things that I think the game looks like it's doing quite well.
Yes.
The number one small thing that I'm very excited about is better customization.
Oh.
We'll get to sandwiches in a second because I think that's a great idea too. Even though that's another example where I think the game looks awful. I don't know
Sure.
why. There's no lighting on the tomatoes. That it doesn't matter. You're right. It doesn't matter. Let's talk about the
Didn't say
customization.
anything.
The customization is something that the series has been desperately needing. Now,
Hmm.
I've loved customization, trainer customization since X and Y. It's one of the
Yeah.
things actually from Gen 6 that I valued the most.
Hmm.
Because again, if the premise of the game is let me be sort of immersed in my own Pokemon journey with my Pokemon, let
Yeah.
me be the trainer doing it, right?
Hmm.
But they've always been so hesitant to give you like proper customization.
Yeah.
And this is very robust in terms of hairstyles. You can get down to the nuance of eye shape and eyebrow and
Hmm.
everything. So this is a direct, hey, we want this. Yes, you can have it.
Yeah.
Change to the series. So I'm really quite pleased about that.
Yeah, I think it looks fantastic, and I've kind of always been the guy to head into one of the clothes shops like a third of the way through the game, choose my style, and forget that customizations are an option. So I don't know how much I will dig into this. I'm not a huge
Yeah,
customization guy in general, but I think this is very good. This is
yeah,
very important, and it seems like they recognize that they're doing it right now. There's a selfie mode. There's photo modes. You can upload
yeah.
pictures
Photo
of
mode's great.
yourself to have as your icon for when other people are flipping through whatever trainers they've interacted with recently. Like and placing yourself with your Pokemon, taking pictures in the environment. There is a greater degree of showing off your customization, especially as now you will be able to actually see your friends in the overworld. It's not going to
Yeah,
be different trainer sprite like it was in Gen 4. It's not going to be whatever it was in Gen 7, the weird thing that you like walked around with all the shops and stuff that like had people there but they weren't actually there. There's always been weird things about seeing other people online in Pokemon outside of just battling them.
yeah,
And I'm very pleased with the direction they've taken the customization. Like when they were like, "Hey, change your eyelashes and eyebrows," I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Those are things that different people have." And
yes.
as opposed to the history of Pokemon games where everyone has the exact same eyes, maybe you can get lenses and change the eye color, but it's a good day if you do that.
Sure. I also want to talk about the whole picnic thing as you were alluding to.
Yeah.
It sort of I think dovetails nicely with sort of the photo mode and everything to
Hmm.
where when I've beaten a Pokemon game, I want there to be a piece of real post game content,
Hmm.
which the modern Pokemon games have been lacking.
Yeah.
But for me, what's important once that post game content is done, just ways to interact with the Pokemon I catch and sort of be in that world more
Yeah.
and just have activities to do. And I think that sort of Pokemon on me, I
Hmm.
really I
I
just
love Pokemon Me.
we talk a lot about how much we love X and Y, but I think they really did a lot to sort of bring you in closer conversation with the world and your Pokemon.
Yeah.
And this seems like just another step forward in that.
Hmm.
Um, so I really like the picnic thing. It doesn't seem to be hugely different than Pokemon Camp, other
Yeah.
than the fact that the camera angle seems to be different.
Well,
You know what I
it's
mean?
not the camera angle, it's that your character is actually in the environment. You are in Pokemon Camp, you were a camera. You were
Good
looking at
point.
your Pokemon and they
Yeah.
just had this environment that generated out of nowhere that they were walking around in. And you just watched them. And I think the
Yeah.
idea of being able to interact with them more directly will already make you feel a little more connected to your Pokemon, like just
Yeah.
walking over to them, throwing the ball to them, as opposed to being the camera and like shooting the ball to your throat.
Yeah, that's a great point. I like
Or having the feather thing and you're like this.
so that was so weird. And I like that you can give them a barf. I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
nice. Again, it's about little things you can do to make the world feel more alive. It's the same with the fact that they finally seem to have figured out the following Pokemon AI
Yes.
to where it's not complete horse shit.
Hmm.
Um,
Which is
but yeah,
great, having Pokemon following you in this
yeah,
open world, and you know we're not, it's not going to be what Let's Go did with the unique forms of transport, but of course you have a unique form of transport in this game, which is a
right.
shape-shifting Pokemon pal that's alongside you.
Yeah, I just like that even though the game is about macro changes, they're focusing on these also sort of
Yeah.
micro iterative things that are taking the ideas from the series that
Hmm.
just needed more evolution, no pun intended, and taking them to a much more robust place. So,
Yeah.
is there anything else in this trailer that we missed that you want to mention?
Oh Christ. I think there was something, but hold on, let me see. I was looking at Central Leaks earlier. They did. They did accidentally reveal 3 new Pokemon species
Yeah, I like that
through the mini
bird.
map. One thing that does signal that I didn't realize is that Pokemon will show up on the mini map. Maybe if you have a toggle on or something like that,
Yeah,
which is fine. It's cool. I don't really care, but I actually do really like the map system here. I
yeah, it
think the
looks good.
UI looks great. I think this map is very detailed, and so you're not going to be having the problem that you had in like Breath of the Wild, where you're like, I want to put a pin somewhere, but like the terrain doesn't like the drawing isn't like detailed enough to me really tell where I'm putting this. So I think that's a categorical win here.
Yeah, map looks good. Um, yeah, although at the same time, it's like I sure have seen an open world map where you can put
Yeah.
waypoints on it
Yes,
before.
of course,
So,
of course.
but yeah, it's nice. It's nice that they are getting these things right because
Yeah,
these are the sort of things that are
moment to
critical
moment
to
experience.
yeah.
And
So
also you've got the TM machine,
yeah, the TM machine's cool.
which I think is interesting because it is a sort of collectible and an incentivization of defeating Pokemon and gathering materials that I enjoyed out of Legends Arceus, but it's co-opted itself into the actual Pokemon game structure a
Yeah,
little more naturally. Of people want to teach a new move to their Pokemon, okay, go defeat X amount of Pokemon and get these this kind of materials and go make the TM to have your Pokemon learn the move. So I do think that's really cool.
yeah. I mean, for as critical of Arceus as I am, I really did like the resource gathering.
Hmm.
It doesn't look like that's back per se, but
Yeah,
the idea that you have an open world and there's things to collect in it, and those things have a material function, is very important. Opposed to like the wild area where you could find like items on the ground, right? But who gives a fuck at a certain
yeah,
point, right?
yeah.
You need a reason to engage with your open world, and hopefully
Hmm.
they give you enough little nubbins like this that you actually want to.
Yeah,
The last thing I'll just mention quickly is that sort of like horde battle ask that you're doing against the grunt Pokemon in the
yeah.
what's the
Starfall Street,
what's the enemy team's name this
Team
time
Star,
around?
probably. I
Team
don't know.
Star. Yeah, I don't know if that's cool or not. I suppose
Hmm.
we'll have to see. My fear is that that's something that could very quickly devolve into busy work,
Yeah,
especially especially if a lot of these camps end up being very similar in terms of structure of
yeah,
because we have only seen one real archetype of these camps
yeah, yeah.
in trailers. So I hope that doesn't become busy work, but that's definitely something that I will need more information on, like a lot of this game. But
Yeah, yeah.
you anything else you want to say?
The one last thing I think is interesting through these last 2 bits of information we've gotten 2 new Pokemon revealed,
Yeah,
Wiglet and Farigiraf, and I like both of them a lot. I
I
think
do
they're
too.
great designs, but I think they're also both interesting signals in 2 different ways. Is for the first time since Gen 4, I guess Gen 6 if you want to count Sylveon, we're getting a direct new evolution of an old Pokemon. That is
Yeah,
not there's not Paldean Girafarig that evolves into Farigiraf. And I do think that is a good return to form, and I think mixing the two will be nice. Like, we'll probably get a not Quagsire Paldean Wooper evolution, which I think will be cool, but mixing the two, having options of, hey, we've got Paldean Wooper that will evolve into fucking Mucksire, whatever it's called. And
sure.
you've got normal Girafarig that evolves into Farigiraf, and that's just a continuation of that Pokemon's evolutionary chain, like we got in Gen 2, like we got in Gen 4, and I've always loved expanding on lines like that. And also that we've got Wiglet, which is just a different Pokemon than Diglett, but it's taking the sort of same design principle, but making
Yeah.
it it's actually its own species, which I think is all of their really cool ways to continue expanding on old Pokemon ideas while giving us just new stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be curious to see it like if it's a sort of obstacle situation of what I mean is like, Mag Mortar
Hmm.
is no matter what region you're in, it's going to evolve from your Magmar.
Yeah,
It's unclear to me if Farigiraf is that or if
well,
it's just
that's what I'm saying. Is
yeah,
it's already more that than Overquill or Obstagoon or Mr. Rime or Surfetch'd or
sure.
anything like that. Because this isn't a low or this isn't a Hisuian Quillfish that's evolving into
Right.
Overquill. It's not Galarian Linoon that's evolving into Obstagoon. This is we know what Girafarig looks like, and it's
Yeah.
evolving into Farigiraf. And
Yeah,
also, Wiglet's fucking hilarious. Gotta love
yeah, he's
Wiglet.
very funny.
And I'm really interested to see what Wiglet evolves into because I don't think it's going to be Wig Trio. I assume that it's going to be something crazy giant eel coming out of the ground.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh god, I'm excited. I'm excited. This trailer didn't. This nothing in this trailer aside from the few smaller things that we mentioned.
Yeah,
Photograph, the trainer customization, the Pokemon Camp like. Those things got me excited, but none of the most of the 15 minutes we spent here gave me anything new to grab onto. But I think that's okay. I'm pretty satisfied with the information rollout of this game over the last few months of giving us a Pokemon being revealed in a weird way here, giving us a trailer that reveals a little more information about the structure there, showing that you're riding in the overworld with your legendaries. All of things are good signals to me, and I can't wait to get my hands on these games. Frankly, I think they are more exciting the more we learn.
yeah,
But there still is that distance. There's that gap of you and I, especially being like, we don't quite get what this is.
yeah. I just I'm just not excited. And
Yeah,
then that's what it comes down to. I'm sure, as I've said before, I'm sure I'm going to really enjoy the game when I get it. But it's like I spent my Game Freak excitement coupons on Legends Arceus 9 months ago. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I just don't think there's been enough time. I
Of
don't
course,
think
I don't disagree with
I don't think
that.
there's been enough time. I don't think there's been enough information conveyed to me. Everything you're saying is right, and I
Yeah,
agree with you
of
that
course, as usual.
it's that step forward we want. It's that evolution we've been really craving
Hmm.
for years now. But I just can't escape my own personal skepticism.
Yeah,
The inside of me there are two Abrams. There's Tucker Abram and Abram, and they're in conversation for how I feel about the game. But of course, I'll be there day one. I mean, obviously I will. There's that was never in jeopardy.
yeah,
And I think that the sandwich textures and the fact that the Pokemon Company was willing to linger on them cynically sort of recognize the fact that people are gonna be there day one.
yeah.
And it doesn't really matter
Absolutely. Yeah.
about corners cut or things missing. So
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the website right now. Fun, interesting detail. I don't know how if this sparks your joy or not. Is that the Pokemon picnics? They just exist in the overworld, and when you're playing with other people, you can join other people's Pokemon picnics and throw out your Pokemon as well, and everyone will interact.
can
So I
I
think
put
that's a nice fun touch.
can I put my meat on their sandwich?